40 being led by Mondi, with news flow out of that company. It's bought a Western European industrial and consumer bag operation, saying that it will have net cash inflow of €8 million after the acquisition, and also announced that it sold its UK corrugated business for some €43 million. Is there further upside to be had on Mondi? As I said, at the top of the top 40 today, up 1.25%.
Evening, Bronwyn. Both deals to me actually look relatively small, and none of them huge. And I still, getting rid of some businesses in the paper space isn't a bad idea, particularly those that are very competitive. Corrugated certainly is. My sense still remains that if we look at the paper industry as a whole, there's an issue of oversupply. Now, in Mondi's space, less so. Really, a lot of that oversupply is in the glossy papers, the coated papers, which is where Sappi is. That's your magazines and the like, where there's chronic oversupply. And there has been for over a decade. And it's more or less about moving companies around and who owns what. It actually really needs some of the companies to shut down production. And that's not what we're seeing. Certainly the market liked it on Mondi, and maybe the market was just desperately looking for any bit of good news and running with that, because otherwise it was a pretty bleak day out there.
Well, let's focus on the bleakness that we're seeing out there, largely in the financial stocks. We've got the likes of Standard Bank, almost 3% lower, Old Mutual giving up 2.5%. At the bottom of the top 40, however, Sanlam down 5%. And as I said earlier, there's no end to the negative news on the financial side. And again, I've got to ask a question. It looks as though I'm asking it ad nauseum, but is Goldman Sachs the start of something bigger, or is this just a temporary pullback?
The financial stocks, the worst sector in the market today, but in truth, Sanlam and Standard Bank both ex-dividend today. And if we stripped out those dividends, even in the case of Sanlam, although they fell 5%, their dividend was about 4%. If we take those two dividends down, we got the big four banks and Sanlam down about 0.5% or so. So really, Old Mutual, the loser there. If we then go to the Goldman Sachs story, is this the beginning of what we're going to see a lot more coming out? Short answer, I think we will see a lot more coming out. But I think that the reasons are perhaps less about really getting to the bottom of stuff. And I've got some dubious issues around the claim and the like. There really is that sense out there where you've got the main street almost, if we want to say, baying for blood, and administration and legislators now kind of acceding to that demand. I'm not convinced that there's that much really behind it. That said, I think we're going to see more, but I think the market's ultimately going to shrug it off. I think the volcano, perhaps more of a story.
The volcano obviously impacting the airline stocks across the globe. Any update on, you must be focusing on this on market desks at the moment, any update on when we will see normal traffic returning to the skies?
Well, it seems, the stories are maybe Wednesday in terms of the cloud will clear. But what seems to be the story really is actually airlines have been doing test flights to fly below the cloud level, which is at about 28 to 32,000 feet. Now, they can certainly fly at, say, 25,000 feet. That's absolutely not a problem. It's not a safety issue. The problem is you don't get the Gulf Stream, those huge winds at that level. So it costs the airlines more to move a plane from A to B. They've got less of Mother Nature helping them along. But at the moment, they're losing 200 million a day. If they can at least get the planes in the air, even at a higher cost, I suppose they will pass that cost on to the passengers, and they would at least be flying. So I think we're going to see flights probably resuming midweek.
A burning question for me is the insurance situation. Certainly there are clauses in some insurance policies saying that acts of God are excluded. Would this be an act of God, and hence the airlines aren't going to receive any cover from their insurance companies?
And that seems to be the way it's panning out. Certainly, volcano, we can claim act of God and the like. They're not going to be able to claim for it, and it's absolutely hurting them. Critically, obviously, it's hurting an industry that really, pretty much since 9/11, has had one after another. 9/11, oil prices at 150, global recession. There's just been no good news for that sector, and this is further bad news for them. They're losing money. They're not going to be able to claim it, seemingly, from their insurers, so it's really going to hit them hard. And that's at the airline, but then the entire associated industries. Fresh fruit and flowers into Europe, tourism, etc., all suffering along the way.
What is your advice to investors at the moment? Because you know what is going to happen is that people are going to take fright. They've been waiting for a correction in the market. We could see a widespread sell-off. Would you say hold your position, adopt a wait and see, or is that too risky?
If you're an investor, look, if you're a trader, you trade the price, and really you were probably getting out today if you were long of this market. But let's look at it from the investor perspective. Really what we're seeing here is a building story. I'm a big fan of not panicking on the news, not being too quick on it, and not doing a knee-jerk. Let's see how this unfolds. I think we could see some more downside. It might end up being as much as 5 or 10% in the big picture, but I don't see it as being the beginning of the double dip. I don't see it as being an absolute calamity where we're going to start heading back to 25 or even perhaps worse 20,000 on the all share. I think maybe we see ourselves back at around the 27 level, and if you're in a position and you are an investor, at this point with what information we have, I don't see any need to be selling.
A Dutch asset management company has committed $250 million to Pallinghurst. That is for deployment in the local mining sector, and I think some $50 million being earmarked specifically for Platinium. What do you make of the story? The stock today at R4.99, up almost 1%.
I mean, Pallinghurst, absolutely, Gilbertson, a deal maker of note. We've seen this before when he was at BHP Billiton and the like. He's going to be doing the deals. And at the moment, one of the big benefactors of those deals, as he said, is Platinium. And they're a really good little story. They've got some quality assets. And what's critical, one of the things with you, if you're in that point of mining, you're in exploration, you're in the ramp-up phase, capital is critically important, and Pallinghurst is just providing that capital for them, which really makes them a very viable story going forward. Over the last couple of years, junior miners, exploration, ramp-up miners struggled to raise capital, and at the moment they've just got a pipe going straight and giving them money. So Platinium looking really good, and Pallinghurst really putting some deals together.